Welcome back and welcome to session 1, Smart Systems for Green Deal. This session will be chaired by the EPoSS Office Director, Ms. Elisabeth Steimetz. Elisabeth will review all your questions and ask them to the speakers in the questions and answers panel at the end of this block. You can already start asking your questions to the speakers using the chat window or the question tab. Please indicate which speaker you are addressing your question to. We are first warmly welcoming the keynote speaker of the session, Mr. Mario Diaz Nava from ST Microelectronics, with his presentation about the Green Deal for agriculture, food and natural resources. Mario has an outstanding expertise in the field of smart and IoT sensors for agriculture and food application and is currently chapter leader of the ECS Strategic Research Agenda team on this topic. Welcome, Mr. Diaz Nava. We are looking forward to ST Microelectronics' view on the Green Deal.
Okay. I will present the Green Deal for agriculture, food and natural resources. My speech will be divided in different points. What is the European Green Deal? I will focus on what is the Green Deal for agriculture, natural resources and biodiversity. And the second point is agri-food and natural resources challenge. I will present also what are the possible solutions to contribute for electronics components and systems that IoT could be one of them. What are the system requirements from the user perspectives? What are the technological timelines that the availability of this technology in the next 10 years? Give some applications and to conclude. Okay, then as all of you have certainly noted, the atmosphere is warming and the climate is changing with each passing year. 1 million of 8 million species on the planet are at risk of being lost. Forests and oceans are being polluted and destroyed. The European Green Deal is a response to this challenge. It's a new growth strategy that aims to transform Europe into a fair and prosperous society. The Green Deal is an integrated part of this Commission's strategy to implement the United Nations 2030 Agenda and the Sustainability Development Goals. We can mention, for instance, 3 main goals. Climate neutrality. Europe should be the first continent to reach climate neutrality for 2050 by foresting the deployment on innovative technologies and infrastructure, such as smart grids, hydrogen networks, and carbon capture and energy storage. The second one, zero pollutions, by supporting clean and affordable, secure energy and acceleration the shift to sustainable and smart mobility. The third one is concerns quality food by unfair, healthy, and environmentally friendly food systems, preserving and restoring ecosystems and biodiversity. Okay, do you hear me? The second, concerning agriculture biodiversity, the Green Deal defined 2 complementary actions. The first one is from farm to fork. European food is already a global standard for food that is safe, plentiful, nutritious, and high quality. Now, Europe food should also become the global standard for sustainability. European agriculture, the manufacturing, processing, retailing, packaging, and transportation of food make a major contribution to air, soil, and water pollution and greenhouse emissions, and has a profound impact on biodiversity. As such, food systems remain one of the key drivers of climate change and environmental degradation. For these reasons, the From Farm to Fork action targets to reduce dependency on pesticides and antimicrobials, reduce excess fertilization, increase organic farming, improve animal welfare, and reverse biodiversity loss. A sustainable food system will be essential to achieve the climate and environmental objectives of the Green Deal, while improving the incomes of primary producers and reinforcing European competitiveness. Concerning biodiversity strategy for 2030, biodiversity is also crucial for safeguarding European and global food security. Biodiversity loss threatens our food systems, putting our food security and nutrition at risk. Biodiversity also underpins healthy and nutritious diets and improves rural livelihoods and agricultural productivity. For instance, more than 75% of global food crop types rely on animal pollination. To tackle these issues, Europe proposed the following action: establish protected areas for at least 30% of land and sea in Europe. Restore degradation ecosystems at land and sea across Europe. You see here in the slide, you have different also actions that will be done: increasing organic farming and biodiversity-rich landscape features on agricultural land, halting and reversing the decline of pollinators, restoring at least 25 kilometers of European rivers to a free flowing state, reducing the use and raise of fertilizers by 50% by 2030, planting 3 billion trees by 2030. And with the From Farm to Fork and Biodiversity Strategy 2030 actions, the European Union aims to reduce the environmental and climate footprint of the European food system and strengthen its resilience and ensure food security in the face of climate change and biodiversity loss, lead a global transition towards competitive sustainability from farm to fork and tapping into new opportunities. This means ensuring food security, nutrition and public health, making sure that everyone has access to sufficient, nutritious, sustainable food that upholds high standards of food safety and quality, plant health, animal health and welfare, while meeting dietary needs and food preferences. Second, ensuring that food chain covering food production, transport, distribution, marketing, and consumption has a neutral or positive environment impact, preserving and restoring the land, fresh water, sea, and sea-based resources on which the food system depends, helping to mitigate climate change and adapting to its adaptation, protecting land, soil, water, air, plant and animal health and welfare, and reversing the loss of biodiversity. The societal benefits and policies support include the delivery on healthy and sustainable food, sustainable production, new jobs, climate actions, ecosystem conservation. In order to tackle these problems and the contribution that can be done for these kind of problems, what I propose to present is what on a smart system based on IoT and IoT. Then here we can see the IoT reference architecture that is composed in three main domains: the edge domain, cloud domain, and applications domain. I think concerning the people participating in this, I think most of them maybe are related to create new components. And here, the main opportunities are in the edge domain, because we have end nodes, end devices, we have access points, we have gateways, and we see also this is to gather information and to process this information and make that analysis in the cloud domain, use these results and to make the applications. The problem of this, the current situation is that the big issue is in the edge domain, that IoT devices are not secure. They need to be secure and to guarantee the end-to-end security. For this, the next step in the evolution of IoT system is to introduce the security standards in the cybersecurity for the edge devices. Then the second aspect that will be also part of the evolution is to introduce data analysis based on artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning. For the time being, there is many solutions at the cloud for this kind of solutions, data analysis, what is moving to the edge, and many opportunities exist for Europe. For sure that we will perform also data analysis in the end devices as well in the edge and the server and gateways. Then the other point that should be also improved in the next years is to introduce multi-sensor and actuators. Actuators, most of the systems that exist today is more for monitoring and not for control. And we need complete systems supporting monitoring and control. Then we need also to integrate easily new CPS systems like robots, drones, and satellites. Then, and the last point is digital twin for prediction, maintenance, and production. As soon as we have all these elements, we will have really nice solutions for agriculture, for industrial agri-food, also for we will participate to improve the biodiversity. And now what is important is how is moving the technology. All this technology is bringing, thanks to the possibility to perform data analysis in the edge, we go for edge computing. And we will have and reduce and very practical solutions for local areas and local solutions that could be very useful for the farmers. I will present later on what could be the architecture for farming or also for the agri-food industry. The benefits of this kind of architectures, as has been already mentioned in the previous presentation, is reduced latency, allowing real-time applications, reduced bandwidth, very, very important reduced bandwidth, because bandwidth means energy. Energy, we are spending a lot of energy that we don't need to spend there. Higher cybersecurity and privacy, bringing this security, allow security in the local, you avoid to have some threats. We can guarantee confidentiality, integrity of information, and we cannot be, I don't believe that privacy was really necessary in the agriculture. It is the case. Lower power consumption, this is essential for agriculture, and we have the possibility to create local private networks. Then finally, if we can summarize the system requirements, from the technology side, we see multi-sensor and actuators, robots, drones, satellites. We need edge and cloud computing capabilities. Not all the time we will have only edge. We have hybrid systems. We will have most of things will be done in the edge, but certainly sometimes we need to have also a connection with the cloud. We need to have data analysis based on deep learning. We need to have chips to reduce power consumption, to increase performances. Again, security and privacy. We need to have the adapted connectivity required for this kind of solutions. We need to have low power consumption. Reliable technology, computer vision is very also important with the sensors, vision sensors. We need, and we forget also, we need modeling, data analysis, software development, prediction, system debug, and validation. Without these tools, it will be very difficult to deploy complex systems. Complex systems means hundreds and thousands of nodes. And when we're talking about critical system, it's impossible to deploy a critical system without tests before with validation. And these tools should help us to do that. Okay, from the user point of view, in agri-food autonomy, we need to autonomy, large convergence integration, cost is very important, robustness, reliability, easy to use, availability, flexibility, support, and maintenance. Then we see here in the slide the evolution of the timeline for evolution of the technology. We go for bulky and miniature chips and with IoT standards, from centralized data analysis and control, which is for the timing cost, and we need to move for a more distributed system, and we need to go and to reduce cost. And after the 2030, we for a long-term and massive deployment. Okay, this is some examples of what could be applied this technology. For instance, here we present a water management system that we need to the IoT is to make water can be used to make water management smarter, optimize resources consumption for treatment, preserve the environment by rationalizing natural water use, reducing contamination effluents. The benefits improve sustainability, use of natural water, involve users as part of the upgrade. We see here the evolution of the technology and the possible application of this to have more real-time water monitoring. And the last one is how this IoT system could make far more smarter. They need optimized resources consumption, preserve the environment by reducing pesticide use. In the case of this example is for the viticulture, we want to improve wine yield, wine quality, and production. I am convinced that this kind of systems will be completely deployed also for other crops. Here we have some examples of sensors, multispectral cameras to leaf area index, mapping, biomass measurement for vigor and fruit density. We have insect traps that we need to detect if there is some ravagers that we can eliminate. And we have example here also how to control water meters that could be used also in the water management systems. We need to know how much we consume. We to make efforts to reduce the consumption of water, for example. Finally, this is the takeaway benefits, handled complexity, improve quality, optimize input and resources, ECS technologies contributing to reach Green Deal goals. The key technologies are here, and the user requirements are also the more important here. We need to provide robust solutions, cost-effective to the farmers. If not, it is impossible to introduce this technology and to help to them to reach the goals of the Green Deal. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Diaz Nava. Please stay with us for the Q&A session at the end of this session. Now we're welcoming Kévin Blévennec. Kévin is a circular economy researcher at VITO, a research center in Flanders focused on the developments of sustainable technologies. And Kévin will talk about the role and impact of circular economy, role and impact of functional electronics on the transition towards a circular economy, and refer to a recent position paper published by the 5E Consortium on functional electronics. We look forward to your presentation, Mr. Blévennec.
Hi, can you see my screen?
We do.
Perfect. Thanks, Evelyn, for your introduction. Welcome to my presentation entitled Role and Impact of Functional Electronics on the Transition Towards a Circular Economy. My name is Kévin Blévennec, and I'm working at VITO, which is an independent research organization based in Belgium. And today I was invited to give a talk on the 5E vision paper related to this topic. So for those who are not aware, 5E is a Horizon 2020 project which has for ambition to federate 3 European ecosystems: nanoelectronics, flexible electronics, and electronic smart systems. And not to spoil the workshop session which has been organized later on today, but within this research project they have been introducing a new notion, the notion of functional electronics, which reflects the ever increasing capabilities for those, let's say, the convergence between those three European ecosystems to integrate digital technologies with cognitive function. And within the framework of this research projects, there have been released a vision paper entitled Role and Impact of Functional Electronics on the Transition Towards a Circular Economy. So several people from the organization you can see on this slide have been contributing or supporting this vision paper. And then you might be wondering why VITO isn't giving this presentation today. Is that because VITO recently became part of the OEA, contributing to the sustainability working group activities, and VITO is also chairing the European Circular Economy Research Alliance. So I've been directly, let's say, actively involved through those two lenses in the writing of this position and vision paper. So you will see some links in this presentation with what Mario and Marina have just presented, but let me start with giving you, let's say, the vision of this paper in itself by building analogies with the background of this slide and trying to position the different elements shaping this vision. So with the recent release of the European Green Deal, we now have new ambitions, getting climate neutrality for Europe by 2050 and highlighting the circular economy as a pathway. So indeed, now we have, let's say, EU setting the direction, highlighting the final destination, and showing the circular economy as a road to take to get there. What this vision paper is saying is that European electronics industry has a role to play for building this role. Why? Because Europe is currently in the middle of two transformations, the green and the digital one, which until this communication on the European Green Deal have not really been aligned. So what we are saying is that the European electronics industry has a kind of a bridging role to play for connecting those two worlds. Again, reflecting this vision, what is said in this vision paper is that functional electronics can be one vehicle on these roads, but to make sure that we are driving it in the right direction, we need to have, and now, digital, material, and circular economy experts together with policymakers driving it together. So now, with these slides, you have a snapshot on the vision described within this paper. Let me use the remaining time of this talk to describe some more concrete elements which you can retrieve in this paper. Let's start with the first angle. Within the new Circular Economy Action Plan, which is a building block of the European Green Deal, the role of product design and the importance of designing sustainable products in a circular economy has clearly been emphasized. Priority is given to key product value chain, such as textiles and electronics and ICT. Why? Because they are considered as high impact product groups, currently relying, and as we saw with Marina, on linear model, take, make, dispose, but also for their circularity potential. So we do already have a lot of challenges to face, and that are the priority which will be given in the coming years. But what if we now merge, let's say, those two product value chain, for example, and taking the example of embedding electronics into textiles? I think, and nobody wants it, there is no more time to put an additional picture here in the middle of these slides. So what's the vision of this paper saying is that we need to have functional electronics and products embedding functional electronics designed for the circular economy. We need to make sure that we are sourcing the right materials, we are using the right amount of resources, making sure we are not using hazardous chemical substances, making sure that we are designing our products to last and to be recycled. The second angle, which is taken within this vision paper, is that indeed, and again, taking a reference to the new Circular Economy Action Plan, is that digital technologies are considered as key enablers and potential accelerator of the transition towards a circular economy. And indeed, if we now are able to track the journey of products, components, and or materials, we might understand how value is currently generated and maybe where it's lost. It could allow us to rethink how we are currently doing business, in the sense that instead of selling products to everybody, we might sell those products as a service, and it might become an incentive for us to design better performing and longer lasting products. So what is a vision reflected again in this paper for functional electronics? If digital technologies can play a role in accelerating the transition towards a circular economy, functional electronics have the potential to contribute there by providing the necessary and technological capabilities there. Again, illustrating it with the example of embedding, for instance, electronics into textile. If we want to collect textile waste, maybe it's nice to know where are our textile products. We can maybe use those new capabilities to maximize the performance during product lifetime, maybe interact in real time with the user in case of an unsustainable behavior, or again, we should or could be able to detect a product fault. For example, I could let my user know when my textile is about to fail and know how and where to repair it to maintain the functionality of our textile product in the economy. By collecting and generating data along a product life cycle, we could, of course, in a secured and confidential way, share information among the different stakeholders within our product value chain. And for instance, recyclers could be interested in getting some information which have been introduced during the design and manufacturing phase. Similar approach for enhancing the traceability. Again, if we collect, generate, and translate data into relevant information, we might know more about the effective use of our product and could use those information to fit the design of future solutions. So basically what we have been describing in this vision paper is that we need to design green functional electronics and to unlock the potential of functional electronics for green. And for that, we need to mobilize research and foster innovation. What this vision paper is saying is that we should not bring electronics where it was not possible before because we now are able to do it. No, we should bring electronics where it is useful. For that, we need to develop and base this integration based on holistic impact assessment methodologies, of course, integrating economic parameters, but also environmental and societal parameters. We need an adequate regulatory framework, that is to say a digital circular policy agenda, to make sure that we maximize the beneficial synergies between the green and digital transformations. So normally, this I gave you an overview of what has been described within this vision paper with those two angles. And this vision paper has been conceptualized by the 5E project with this representation given on these slides. You can retrieve in this vision paper. You should now have all the background information to understand all the notions presented on this slide and how they are organized and connected. So let me use, let's say, the remaining time I have for this presentation to make a short advert of the CSIC conference. If you are interested to get involved and pursue those discussions, VITO, together with SRA, is organizing a conference, the CSIC conference, with a specific track focusing on digital circular economy as a cornerstone of a sustainable society. We'll have a specific deep dive section focusing on functional electronics for circular value chain. So it's free to participate, so please join us at CSIC. So I would like to thank you for your time, and hopefully you will have questions that I will be able to answer in the Q&A session. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Blévennec, for this talking and this preview to this conference. So let's come now to the last presentation before lunch, given by Gereon Meyer. He's head of the Department of European and International Business Development at VDE-IT. Gereon represents EPoSS in ECVIA since long and is the chairman of EPoSS Working Group Transportation. He will give us a short insight into the Green Deal for mobility and report on activities in two upcoming public-private partnerships, CCAM and 2.0. Please, Gereon.
Thank you, Evelyn, for the introduction and for this opportunity. I may look a little bit deranged as I just left hospital 2 days ago after surgery on my ankle, so my apologies if something's going really wrong. That may be due to that condition, but trying to do my best. So what I want to do here is just give you a very quick update on the road transport related partnerships CCAM and 2.0, and also a little bit on the links to the KDT partnership in the context of the European Green Deal. I hope you can see my slides. If not, please flag that and I'll try to find a solution.
Everything's fine.
Okay, thank you. Very good. All right. So actually the activity I'm reporting on is here is presented from the perspective of the EPoSS working group on transportation. And in this working group, since a long time, we have tried to understand what would be the most appropriate concept of describing research needs related to road transportation and road vehicles, particularly automotives, of course, in view of future challenges. And we sat together about 2 years ago and came up with this little sketch that you see on the right side here, saying that all the different levels at applications and at the different levels of applications and systems, there's synergies between electrification and automation of powertrains. And they are actually from components to models to vehicles, also to the digital infrastructure. We can always describe the potential synergies at these different levels. So just to give you one example, on the bottom that you see here in purple, there is synergy at the systems level. So considering, for example, fail operational capabilities of systems applies to both the safety and automation and the energy side, of course. And could also do that at the very top level, close to applications, where future mobility systems probably comprise both, so electrification and automation of vehicles. So smart systems, in a sense, in our understanding, bring automation and electrification together. And of course, from the most ideal point of view, all that would be integrated into one program. Reality is a little bit more sophisticated, not saying that it would be worse, but it is a bit different. Actually, right now, we are seeing these 3 different partnerships being prepared and all having very close links to the application domain of road transport. On the left, you see the KDT, Digital Technologies Partnership, so the succeeding partnership of the Excel joint undertaking. And of course, that one is looking into many application domains, energy, health, production, society, but also mobility. And there is distinguishing a bit between clean and safe related parts and the bit different contributions that electronic components and systems can make in these different domains. They are all enabling technologies for what is covered in the other 2 partnerships that you see here on the right. On the top, the CCAM partnership, Cooperative Connected Automated Mobility, and the bottom, the 2.0 partnership, which is focused on electrification of powertrains. And as you may already see from the little indications here, particularly if it comes to the environment perception of automated vehicles, then of course all the sensors and all the control architectures that can be provided by KDT can be directly applied there. The same for the electrified powertrains, with the making use of power electronics devices and electro energy management devices provided by KDT. So considering in a value chain logic, it's very clear that the building blocks provided by KDT can be applied in these 2 aspects, automation and electrification covered by CCAM or the 2.0 partnership, in a very logic manner, and also the other way around. From those applications, there may be requirements traced to the world of smart systems that then are to be solved in the KDT partnership. So that's saying that, that said, Obviously, the world is a little bit more complicated. It's a few more interlinks here, and you see these can be clearly described along the value chain, but also with the potentials of synergies. Looking a little bit closer into two of these partnerships, the CCAM partnership at Forced Cooperative Connected Automated Mobility. Obviously, this is the big Horizon Europe partnership related to automated driving. It's aiming at leadership in safe and sustainable road transport through automation, obviously, and particular also at higher levels of automation, particular level 4 that do not require any safety driver anymore, and that will extend over time into like robotic functionalities on the road. This is prepared as a co-program partnership, very much comparable to the contractual partnerships of Horizon 2020, and the EPoSS technology platform is involved there together with other ETPs and associations. There's a couple of topics of relevance to the perspective of smart systems integration in this. If you'd like to take a look into the proposal and the strategic research innovation agenda, particularly if it comes to environment perception, decision-making, safe and cybersecure electronics, robustness, resilience, and so on. So these are in the clusters 2 and 5, but you also see that the CCAM partnership is covering much more, including demonstrations, societal acceptance, and so on. Obviously, smart systems are essential for the safety of automated driving, and we cannot emphasize this enough in this context. Here's the other partnership on the application domain 2.0 towards zero emission road transport. This is aiming at zero tailpipe emission vehicles, meaning battery electric vehicles or fuel cell electric vehicles. Very clearly covering all kinds of vehicles, from like small vehicles, scooters, up to trucks and buses. For fuel cell and hydrogen technologies, the focus is particularly on buses and trucks. This partnership is a continuation of the green cars and green vehicles initiatives of the last decade. EPoSS is involved here in the drafting team together with 3 other technology platforms, ATRAC, EITP, ESNet, and ALICE. And currently we are working on the strategic research and innovation agenda here. And again, we find a lot of topics of relevance for EPoSS, and that particular in the area 1, vehicle technologies. And here the particular point, of course, is the integration of power electronic systems into electric powertrains. And obviously, smart systems here are key for energy efficiency of vehicle applications. What does all of that have to do with the European Green Deal? Well, obviously, as we are talking electrification here or safety in traffic, that would fit the big objective of a smart and sustainable mobility system in the Green Deal. But it also has a little bit of its downsides. So CCAM, for example, yes, of course, it's aiming at the efficiency and the safety of the traffic flows, and thereby is fully in line with the Green Deal. But there may also be the issue of more traffic being generated if it is automated. And that is something to be kept an eye on, of course. The second is with 2.0, obviously with zero tailpipe emissions, that should be fully in line with the Green Deal. We are aiming particular at using green energy in transport here. But the question, of course, is whether this energy is used efficiently enough. It is, again, a resource that we need to handle carefully. And that is to be considered very closely and very carefully. And therefore, yeah, reaching that full agreement with the Green Deal is still a challenge. There is an opportunity of bringing up synergies of electrification and automation that indeed, again, would fit very well into the objectives of the Green Deal. I could consider, for example, automation to enable very light vehicles, because they probably do not need the same level of passive safety systems like today, in an ideal world, of course. There could also be shared use vehicles. And that could all be solutions for the issues that we have seen before. So more automated traffic maybe, but if this is shared use vehicles, it would mean less vehicles on the road, or the same amount of vehicles on the road at least. If these are light vehicles, then the energy efficiency would be used more efficiently. The green energy would be used more efficiently, and that could help to fulfill the goal of the Green Deal in the energy efficiency domain. Therefore, combining all that and finding those synergies, particularly with the support of smart systems, and therefore, of course, strengthen this link to KDT, is what could make mobility really green. And I think that's important to understand. And that was our original notion when we sketched this picture where everything was integrated. And of course, the question now is, at the end, how can we come to something as closely as possible to our original idea or our original vision? And well, there is a good example of making that happen, to making these links along the value chain, create the synergies between different application fields. That's existing already today. In the Excel joint undertaking lighthouse initiatives, there's one called mobility.e, which is trying to understand what technology needs may arise from new demands, and also what opportunities are there to find new applications if we consider the full ecosystem of technologies at both sides along the value chain or the integration chain. And if we do that carefully, we will find that smart systems are a glue of the innovation process in mobility, because it will actually enable what we originally wanted, that we can consider the full potential and take into account the full potential of smart systems for creating synergies at the different levels of the integration. So that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gereon, for your presentation. We have now some time for the questions from the audience that were addressed during the session. I would like to ask all speakers to switch on their cameras now. I will turn off my camera and would like to hand over to Elisabeth Steimetz, who moderates this panel.
Oh, we are missing Marina. Yeah, first of all, thank you all very much for your contribution to this session. And the question that came up listening to all of your talks from my side is, well, I think that what is absolutely clear is that smart systems really play a role in reaching the Green Deal objectives. So that's not a question at all. So first of all, in the agri-food and natural resources area, Mario, a question for you. You mentioned, you talked a lot about IoT systems and how important it is to move to the edge and to have edge computing. So what, from your point of view, is still to be done in Europe, and where is Europe standing with regard to these capabilities in edge computing? That's the first question.
Okay, I think you need to understand the edge computing. It's an opportunity to save resources. I have mentioned we don't need to bring all the data in the cloud. That is for sure. You are losing and spending resources for nothing. Why to go for all things to the cloud? The opportunity for Europe is really to bring this technology to the edge, where Europe is very have solutions. We are not competitive in the cloud, we are competitive in the edge because we are making devices. How we can transform these opportunities? We need really to bring artificial intelligence, deep learning, chips in the edge, and we bring these opportunities for local applications. I think agriculture is a very good example to do that. Why we need to go to the cloud? We don't need. I think sometimes if we need to share data between different locations, it's necessary, but this in some cases is not the need for agriculture. It's not need also for industrial IoT. We don't need that. We need local. And I think we need to change this mind. Why not to make easy and cheaper and to use these competencies of Europe of that? Then I think one of the main things is to make solution chips, because chips brings performances, low power consumption, and a lot of opportunities. I don't know if I have answered your question.
So then the ideal sensor in the field would be the one using Marina's batteries in combination with edge computing, low energy consumption. So Marina, a question for you: what are the challenges to bring your batteries really into mass production? So if you look from now to the next years, what do you expect? When will these biodegradable batteries be available in a volume for sensors all over in the field?
Well, I think that the main challenge is to do all this process under a sustainability requirements, under the sustainability requirements and conditions, because if we want to export these batteries to the industry and we take again the same ways in which the industry right now is built, we will lose the sustainability component. So we have to build again all the process to export these batteries to be industrialized.
So will it take 10 years, 20 years? Well, from now, how you have any idea, or it's still very basic research?
Well, now that there's some spin-offs from our group that are trying to do this, but it's difficult. So maybe, I hope a couple of years or maybe 5 years, but it's difficult.
So Kévin, if you talked about functional electronics, I'm not sure if for everybody in the audience it is everybody has a clear view on what functional electronics actually is. Could you maybe in 2 sentences explain what you mean by functional electronics first? And the second question would then be, will that really help us for circular economy, or even create more waste if we put in every shirt that we have a little tiny sensor to detect how long it lives and where it is?
No, I think indeed that the second aspect of your question is highly relevant. First, the term, the notion of functional electronics, I will not claim any definition from my side, but it's really initiated from the 5E project. It's reflects the convergence between, let's say, the 3 urban ecosystems which have been covered under the scope of the 5E project. For me, when we talk about functional electronics, and let's say from an environmental perspective, I'm thinking about bringing electronics in even more market segments and in an even more miniaturized way. I'm thinking, okay, now we have new capabilities indeed, and then it comes back to, let's say, those 2 angles. Okay, we have new capabilities. We are able to bring electronics where it was not possible before, but should we do it? Do I need to connect this pen? No, I'm not sure. But maybe, for example, for textile product, we can gather relevant data, which might be useful. And it's why we emphasize this need for what we call holistic impact assessment. We could also call it cost benefit, in the sense that, how much does it cost on the environment, let's say, to bring sensors there? What are the benefits we gain by, let's say, gathering data and translating those data into relevant information, versus the dispersion of resources, which will happen, of course, if we miniaturize and bring electronics in all type of market segments. Our resources are getting lost and dispersed. So that's it's exactly why we need more research and develop methodologies saying, okay, here it is useful to green electronics because we can, based on that, maintain the functionality of our product in the economy. And for this application, it might not be useful, for instance. So that's why this notion of holistic impact assessment was displayed in the slide.
Okay, thank you very much for this explanation and for your presentation. And everybody who is curious on that can be in the workshop tonight. So another advertisement. And so finally, I would like to thank Gereon for being with us, even in this very tough situation, and our best wishes for a quick recovery.
Thank you.
And one very final question to you, because I see that Evelyn is already there and that we are at the end of the time for this session. So you showed nicely how these public-private partnerships that are currently under consideration are interacting with each other. Having a look at sustainability issues, wouldn't it be important to also make a link to the IPCEI on battery cells, because the recycling and the batteries, as we have learned from Marina, well, they cause a lot of waste today, and recycling procedures are not really there. So to have the whole holistic view on how to solve the Green Deal issues in mobility, wouldn't it be good to also connect to this part of the value chain?
Elisabeth, you are completely right, and what I've shown you is oversimplified, of course, and there's a lot of different topics that also are covered by various partnerships that also are directly linked to these different application domains of electrification and automation. Batteries obviously is one, and it has a very clear and direct interlink there that has also already been created. The same, by the way, with, for example, smart networks or robotics for automated driving. So you can imagine there's a lot more that we could describe in this sense, and it would become like a full network. And I think that's a great beauty of the partnerships on Horizon Europe, that on the one hand, they're very focused, but on the other hand, there's a lot of emphasis now put on creating those links and building those networks that are absolutely essential. Mm-hmm.
We will have another opportunity to discuss this at FX in the ECSSRA related workshops on with regard to the Green Deal. So with Mobility E and other players around. So that will give us another opportunity to further move on with these topics. So finally, I would like to thank all of you, because I think we are at the end of this session, unfortunately. And thank you very much, and
thank you.
Hope to see you somewhere very soon, really in a personal meeting. Goodbye.
Okay, thank you. Bye. Bye.
Thank you, Elisabeth. Thank you, all the panelists. And thank you for your questions and this inspiring morning. We now take a little short break, a lunch break, and meet again at 13:45 sharp.